So Neowiz just released a new dev talk, but this time it is more than just vague descriptions of the changes coming to the Western Steam release. In this dev blog, we actually get some short gameplay clips from each class with the new combat system and skill combos. Don't get me wrong, they still manage to mix in vague descriptions, and even the gameplay raises some new questions, but this time we have at least gotten a little bit of meat to throw on our plates. Now I was going to break down the overarching changes and also cover the details for each class, but I eventually realized this was going to turn into a full feature film, so I decided to change it up. However, I didn't want to just provide some color commentary on the changes. I really wanted to dive into the actual details of everything we've been shown, so what I'm going to do is break it up into parts. In this video, I'm going to cover the major changes to combat and the skill system, and at the end I'm going to give you my class ranking list based on my initial impressions. Then I will cover each of the classes in depth in more videos over the course of this week. So combat has been completely altered, and I understand from the outside view things might not appear that different, but for someone who's spent a lot of time with the game and leveled multiple classes to cap, this is a huge gameplay shift. Combat flow, rotations, full-fledged mechanics, the ways you build your character have all been significantly altered. So let's get to the highlights. Skill count. I've seen some people complaining about the shrunk skill bar, and I want to emphasize that we are now getting much more skills than before. Even if you weren't to count the combo skills and the stance swaps, we would only be getting slightly less at 10 skills versus 13 before. In the old system, you had 9 regular skills, a core skill, 1 shift skill that functioned as a CC break plus a skill component, and 2 reaction skills. On some classes, the reaction skills were so conditional that you wouldn't even use them in most cases. Also, they were all engaged upon conditional effects, like landing a critical hit. Now you have 3 chain skills per stance, and 4 general skills, which equates to 10. Now I argue that most of the combo skills are so impactful that they should also go towards the skill count. Generally, there are 6 skills per chain skill. In some cases, there are even more. And the stance swaps both engage new class mechanics and also have their own active effects applied to the character upon swap, so they arguably could be counted as skills as well. Additionally, they will very likely have playstyle altering effects tied to them. So overall, I think we are getting much more than what we saw in the old version of the game. Immunity frames. Shift skills now appear to be gone and have either been integrated into the chain skills or thrown into the general skill pool. Shift skills used to function as both a CC break and a skill. For Mage, it was a teleport, CC break, and immunity frames for the duration of the animation. For Ranger, it was a CC break, backflip, and iframes that extended for a small time after the actual animation was over. For Berserker, it was a CC break, a short dodge roll, and a short phase of iframes as well. These also cleared debuffs. Shift skills consumed a resource known as energy that, from what we can see, has been removed from the game. The energy cost varied from class to class. This is very impactful, as with high gear and high energy amounts, this was a huge part of the metagame. As characters built towards high energy, they could use their shift skills quite often. It appears that parts of the iframe skills have been dispersed to different areas of the kits, as well as they now have cooldowns. In the videos, we only saw 3 classes with old shift skills slotted, and only 2 of them actually used them. First, we have the Berserker, who has the Mage shift skill icon on their general skill bar, but when it uses a skill, it is clearly the Berserker dodge roll, and now it goes on a 30-second CD. It also seems to consume some sort of secondary resource the Berserker has. I'm predicting we might see a mechanic to where they can lower the CD through attacks. Then on the Ranger, it is on one of the chain skills, and also has a 30-second CD, but it doesn't cost any additional resource. The fact that it is on a chain skill could prove rather annoying, but I'll get into that in my Ranger breakdown video. Then on Mage, we see it on the general skill bar, but we never actually see it used in the video. Overall, this seems like access to immunity frames might be quite diminished, though with both new skills and redesigns, we can't be overly certain on that. Health. It seems that health and classes could be much higher overall. However, I'm thinking the devs could have also just raised the HP for the sake of demoing these combos. If you look right here, the Mage takes 3,245 damage and barely a small fraction of its HP is lost. Again, this could just be raised for demo purposes. Stance swap. Stance swaps change your 3 chain skills to a new bar, but they also have status effects tied to them. For example, when a class swaps, you often see a short duration buff appear. This will likely add some play to utilizing whatever the empowering effects are, and add extra layers to building your character when choosing your stances for certain builds. Old passives. It isn't clear what happened to the old passive system. In Bless, the skill tree of every class had a passive section like this. You could equip 4 passives at a time that either provided general effects to your character or even altered skill mechanics. Looking at the new skill tree image, it appears that they have been removed, at least in their original form, but I have some thoughts on how they might operate now. However, it is just an educated theory at this point. In Fever's recent video about the new combat, he brought up a concern that old passives might be wrapped into stances, and that we might be getting less build options as a consequence, but I don't think this will be the case. First, let's go to the Guardian video. This buff is a stacking passive from the Guardian's old passive tree. This passive gave the Guardian stacking attack power after each attack. We see 2 completely different stances here. And whenever the Guardian swaps, it still continues to stack this passive, which leads me to believe that this passive isn't tied to one particular stance. Now let's go to some quotes from the devs to examine their intentions with the new system. The current skill system works through players improving their skills by investing skill points, but in the future, players will be able to diversify their combat style by choosing which skill effects to grow and how to make their own skill combos, or their skill combos. In addition, we've also restructured the skill system so that even in PvE and PvP, there are a greater variety of strategies and tactics that are viable depending on the player build. The classes of Bless Online appear to fit into some expected fantasy archetypes, Ranger, Paladin, etc. What sort of things will make them unique to similar classes? The reworked skill system that will allow players of all classes to build on and modify their class skills to fit their own playstyle will make each class experience feel unique. You've stated in the most recent developer update that you intend to provide goals for horizontal growth. Can you give us a few examples of what those might be? Vertical growth includes items and levels, and horizontal growth includes increasing the combat efficiency by growing a character's ability and skills. In other words, we are developing Bless to give various combat strategies and tactics based on how a player wants to play, and each class ability and skills even if they have the same level and same items. When you read these various answers from the developers, one theme really resonates with me. That is that they saw the old system as limited, and they see the new system as adding more layers to change the way skills function. And that isn't it. There are much more interview answers that go along those lines. I know or remember one about increasing synergies between skills. Also, looking at the last response of horizontal growth being growing your character's ability and skills, to me that fits my thoughts that they wanted to expand upon class playstyle and skill augmentation options. And the only new system we have learned about so far that is present here on the skill tree is the new gem system. They have stated that before you only updated your skills by adding points to them, but now they have created a system in which you upgrade skills through slotting gems. This is where I believe we will see an expansion upon the old passives. I think we will see both stat-based augmentation and functional-based augmentation as well. Cooldowns. Skill cooldowns appear to operate differently now. The management of cooldowns will be more about stance flipping and chain initiators. The reason I say this is because if you examine the mage video, there are some overlap skills within 2 of the chains. What you see here is the mage in the fire stance, and it uses flame burst, then incineration, then meteor. The mage then swaps stances and uses the chain skill lightning fire, and on this second stage you can see that it has the option to use incineration again. So cooldowns seem to be rooted at the initiator level and don't seem to trickle down to the skill combos themselves. I think this is also a good time to touch on new class mechanics. Classes now have new foundational mechanics attached to them, and I think overall it is a good addition. I don't want to get into each specific mechanic as I will be covering that in the class videos, but I do want to bring up one concern. Some of the classes now have mechanics tied to resources and swapping stances. For example, the Guardian now builds a mechanic off of combo skills combo points called Bravery. Once reaching a full Bravery bar, their next swap will initiate the Enhance mechanic, which will then empower some of their abilities. If the Guardian fails to consume this Enhance mechanic, they will be slapped with a debuff. I will get more into Guardian specifics in the latter video, but the Mage has a similar mechanic. As you can see here, their description is more vague. But if we examine the gameplay video, you see the mage has two stances, fire and what looks like a tri-element stance. Although the mage builds up all the mechanics and gets water and air to full, the only active element is fire. Once the mage reaches a certain threshold of fire, both of the stances start to glow. When the mage swaps, both the stance buff is applied and there's also a core mechanic buff. This used to be one of the buffs given after popping Firebender core that I think would guarantee a critical hit on the next fire spell used. This brings up a possible issue for me. One of the other core skills for mage used to be Waterbender, and one of the things it did after being popped was make your next water spell used freeze an enemy, which acted as a total stun. This was one of your most reliable forms of CC. Now I can envision a scenario in which the mage might be at full water threshold and wants to swap just to get access to other skills, but now they are also burning their dedicated CC as well. I'm hopeful that this isn't the case and has been adjusted for the new system. There's really a lot to break down from these videos, a lot more than you would think at first glance. However, I don't want to stretch this video on too long, so I'm going to try to fit the things that I left out in my future class videos. Before I end this though, I want to leave you with my class tier list based on my initial impressions. These are based on my current opinions after examining the gameplay videos multiple times, and I'm going to be basing it on perceived strength and cohesion within the new design paradigm. At S tier, I currently have the mage. Aside from a few wonky looking chain skills, most of their combos look very powerful. Their damage numbers appear to be high, and they can now cast almost everything while moving. Then in A tier, I have Berserker. Their damage numbers are very high, and they appear to flow very well within the new system. Also at A tier, I have the Guardian. Before, I would have rated the Guardian as a B tier class if you rated their usefulness across every single medium of content. However, I feel they gained the most out of this new system. Their skill design was already really conducive to combo chains, and although we didn't get to see a lot of variance, they appeared to flow very well. At B tier, I have the Ranger. Although it might be more fitting to make a low A tier for them, I think they had good flow, good skill combos and sequences, though their immunity skill and distance skill being tied to a chain skill or initiator could be perceived as a negative, and their damage numbers appear to be much lower than mages and berserkers, though I'll examine this further when I do their breakdown and actually pay more attention to their multi-hit skills. At the C tier, I have the Paladin. I think this class looks like a joke at the moment, though they will most definitely still be needed due to their healing, so it seems hard to give them a C tier rating, but I think that the hit as far as skill sequence and cohesion within the new combo paradigm is so big that I think a low rating is warranted. I will get more into the specifics later, but one of the major reasons I put them this low, other than poor flow, very weak skills in their sequences, is due to extreme overlap on stance swaps. Alright guys, I really hope that this breakdown provided you with a lot of substance and takeaway. What I really encourage you to do is to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because in my next videos I will be going deep with the actual class breakdowns, and I don't want you to miss that. I hope to help you all with understanding these changes for each class and to also find out which might fit your playstyle the best. Thanks for watching, it's Iskamar and I'm out.